What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the puzzle speedrun. We are currently at 2004, so we crossed finally the 2000 border, and we will try to get to 2100 in this episode. Today I'm recording the video without a camera because for some reason my camera doesn't really want to connect to my laptop. So yeah, you won't see my face this time. I hope you're happy about that. So let's look at the first puzzle. We have material equality, at least somewhat. Well, white has a pawn more, but the rest is equal. And we have, well, tension between the rooks here, as well as tension between the bishops here, potentially, since also this rook is only protected by the pawn. So let's say we capture on c5, we will well, we will force our opponent to recapture. And yeah, after that, those two bishops will be staring at each other. So we could, of course, simply take the bishop in that position. But, well, white, of course, will recapture. And then there's nothing as far as I can see. But another move that comes to mind is queen takes b3. We would be attacking the bishop twice in this position, sorry. And we would also be attacking the rook here. So that seems like a fork. So let's try to go for that variation. And it's the correct solution. So very nice. We got 19 points. Let's jump on to the next puzzle. So let's go to this puzzle where our king is being attacked by the queen. We are in check, so we need to do something about that. We can either block the check. There are three ways you can get out of a check, either by blocking it, by moving the king away, or by taking the piece which gives the check, which in this case is of course not possible. We could block here with the rook, but let's say we do that, and white will recapture with their rook probably, and if we recapture, white will again capture with their queen, and there will be no good square for a king to go. And if we decide to block with our queen, yeah, black can trade the queens, and then we'll be up knight, and yeah, we will be completely lost. So that doesn't seem like a good option. Let's instead try to move the king away, and let's try to move it away to h7, as this seems to be a reasonably hidden square for our king. And of course this rook will be hanging, but don't forget that we are threatening mate ourselves. So let's say we move to h6. What can white do? Well, does white have a good check in this position? And as far as I can tell, no. Of course they can grab the rook in two different ways, but I already said we would deliver checkmate in that case. The knight is too far away to be brought into the game as well. And yeah, we can move here, and they, well, how do they prevent this checkmate? It doesn't seem easy for sure. They can, of course, play something like rook to here. But I think then we can even take, and although we'll force to take with the rook, and then we can bring our own rook, and yeah. After that, they have to move their rook back up to g1, and we will deliver checkmate on g1 with either the rook or the queen. So, yeah, I don't see a good way for white to win against this variation. So again, now we can capture on here, and after they recapture us, we will simply play rook to f1, and there is no good way of defending for white, even though they're up a knight, which is stuck in the middle of nowhere. So let's do a checkmate with the queen here. We could, of course, also do it with the rook. Doesn't matter. Nice checkmate, and we are going to the next puzzle. Puzzle number 3 for this episode. Again, a very weak king for our opponent, stuck in the edge of the board. All the pawns in front of it are already gone, and we both have a bishop, a rook, and a queen. So let's look at this check at first. And yeah, this obviously leads to the capture of the rook, so we can rule out this check immediately. And also notice our bishop might come alive if we push this pawn here. So this also is an idea we should keep in mind. And of course we have a few more checks, like queen to e8, for example. After queen to e8, if black were to walk their king to h7, we could play f6 with a discovery attack on the king and also attacking the queen at the same time, so we would win a huge amounts of material. So this looks good, but of course they don't have to move. They don't have to move their king to h7. They can block the check with queen to g8, but in that case we will swing our queen back, I think, to h5. After we play queen to h5, what can black do? Well, they can either once again block the check, but in that case we will be picking up their rook on g4. So we have huge material wins, and yes, black gets the check on h1, but I think it's oh sorry, it doesn't even get the check there. So yeah, no danger for us there. And of course, if black decides to walk the king now, we will also pick up the rook, and it will be completely winning for white. So let's go for this variation. Yeah, and there is no way for black to prevent losing a rook. Very nice puzzle again, and let's go on to the next one. Puzzle number 4 it is, and our queen is getting attacked by the rook, and we have a very strange situation going on here with the knight and the rook, and also both of our rooks on this file. And well, I see that we have a few checks, of course, in this position. Let's look at checks first, if they make any sense. And I also notice it maybe is irrelevant, but I noticed that if we give this check here on b1, we're also kind of attacking the rook on h7. So let's keep that in mind. Maybe it is a part of the solution, maybe it's not, but it's worth keeping that in mind, probably. So what happens after queen to g1? Well, white can block the check, obviously, with the rook. And what are we going to do in that case? Well, I don't think too much of the good stuff, unfortunately. We don't really have a further check anywhere. Yeah, so I'm not really convinced of that move. If we give the check here, of course, they can also block with the rook, and yeah, we cannot capture on c3, of course, because it's protected. So one more thing I noticed is that, of course, this rook here is only protected by the knight, so we could simply try to eliminate that knight at some point, and after they recapture, even with check, we will be winning the rook in the corner. So this looks nice, but of course, if we go for this, now they don't have to recapture us. They can simply take our queen. So I think we should try to get into a situation where our queen is not attacked, and we can go for this little tactic right there, if that is possible in this puzzle. So let's keep on looking for a few more potential moves. So we already said queen to b1 runs into the rook blocking on d1, and we don't have any further check, and I don't think we have any further potential of creating a strong threat ourselves. So that doesn't seem to be the right move indeed. And if we go queen to a1, exactly the same thing happens. We don't have any further checks. Even though white's king is kind of in the center of the board, it seems to be quite well protected anyway. What? Let's say we capture their rook, just to consider it. They will recapture us, of course, and then they grab ours, we grab him. Yeah, they will have a queen for a rook and a knight, and will be better, okay. So that's not a variation we should enter. What can we do then instead? Let's give me a few moments to figure out some other moves. Okay, I think I got a new idea, and that is again queen to b1, and of course they will block with their rook, but there is no need for us to give another check. We can also, of course, create an attack or attack on a piece by bringing back our queen to f5, of course also protecting this pawn, which is now double attacked, but at the same time double attacking this knight. And if the knight were to move, well, we will simply win the rook here. If the knight isn't to move, it will need to be protected once again. And our opponent can protect the knight either by dropping the rook back or by playing pawn to f4. But so let's say we go here, they block, we swing back. And then, well, if they play f4, I think we can simply capture the knight after they recapture with the pawn. We will have a checkmate here, so they cannot play f4. But if we go here, they block, we go here, and now they block with the rook. The knight is protected twice and also attacked twice, so we cannot win the knight in this position. But is there any other good move we could go for? Well, I don't see any in this position. So it seems to be somewhat of a dead end as well. Because, or maybe we can even do something like rook to f7 and then rook to g7, but I think that's too slow. It's not forcing enough, and white will have time to defend themselves. So yeah, I'm still not quite sure of the solution. Let me give me a few more seconds to think about it in silence. Okay, I think once again, considering this variation, we play queen to b1, they block, we move queen to f5, attacking the knight, so they will play rook to h5, and I think from there we can play queen to g4, attacking the rook, and also keeping a double attack on the knight, and there doesn't seem to be a good way for white to be dealing with this threat of us capturing their knight. So let's try to go for this variation. We bring the queen back, and now yeah, they play rook to h5, and yeah, now we will simply go and attack the rook. That was the move I didn't see originally from the distance, but of course we need always to consider attacking moves, as they are very forcing, and there is no square for this rook to go to where it will be able to still defend this knight, so we will be winning the knight at least. So puzzle number 5, our queen's getting attacked, and we are down an exchange in this puzzle, but we have potential attack going on the king side. Our pieces seem to be very active. They're like in a square in kind of the center of the board. And black just pushed a pawn attacking our queen. So, of course, this also leaves weaknesses behind. And maybe allows us to create a strong attack. Of course, we should also consider checks with this knight. For example, grabbing the bishop here with check, so they would be forced to recapture us pretty much. That's just a move we should keep in mind. And also this pawn here is undefended. I'm not sure if that will turn out to be relevant or not though. And also this bishop here is kind of staring on this diagonal. If we could open up everything here, that would be nice to make use of this strong battery. But of course we still have the problem of our hanging queen here in on f5. So let's think about dropping the queen back, maybe to h3, attacking the h6 square, and yeah, there will be a few possible responses for black. Obviously, one of them being there, bringing their king, or also pushing the pawn. Of course, if they decide to push their pawn, we can push our own pawn to f5, attacking their pawn chain. But yeah, there are many variations and many lines the game could enter into in this position. So let's firstly think of the more forcing moves. Knight takes e7. Queen takes e7. And what will we do in this position? Let's think about it. Well, I really don't see a good follow-up to this move. But yeah, also notice that if our knight lands on here, we will be actually forking these two squares. And on this square there's the king. On this square there's the rook. But which piece would we want to be there in a case that our knight lands here? Well, it would be, of course, we want the queen to be on the square, and there is a move that makes the queen go to the square, and that is queen captures on c8, forcing the queen to recapture. And now we will deliver this fork and win back our queen, so we will be up basically our bishop in the end. So this tactic, yeah, deflecting the queen towards a square where it can be forked, and yeah, the sacrifice of our own queen led to winning back black's queen. Very nice puzzle. Let's jump on to puzzle number 6, and this puzzle is, well, is an endgame puzzle kind of, with the heavy pieces, 2 rooks and a queen for both sides, and our rook here is of course pinned to the king. If not, we would simply be able to capture on e1. So of course, when there's a situation where you are pinned, you might think of getting rid the piece which is doing the pinning, and that is the queen in this case. So if the queen wasn't here, we would of course easily be winning, since we could capture here. So let's see what happens after we attack the queen with the move g5. We play g5. What can they do? Well, maybe they can, well, if they move their queen to somewhere, we will be able to capture and then capture again, and we'll be winning. But I think they can play rook to e5, counter-attacking our own queen. And if we then are to capture theirs, well, they will capture ours, we will capture back, and it will be a rook versus a rook. So that isn't fully convincing yet. So let's again look after we play here. They capture our rook. So what happens in this position? What move do we have? Well, actually, there is a move, which is pawn takes, of course. Pawn takes e5, and now also notice that these two pieces are on forkable squares by a pawn. Yeah, now we will be actually attacking two pieces once again, and the queen will have to move, and the queen cannot move away, giving a check or in some other form of in-between move. So we will be simply winning material. They will have to capture here, and now we get a free rook for the price of a pawn. So we are now at 2,101. Yeah, so far I got all of them correct at least, and yeah, we will keep going towards 2,200 in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. Yeah, sorry for not having the camera up here today. It was because of some technical difficulties. I hope I will be back with my face the next time. I hope you want to see my face. If you don't, tell me in the comments. Yeah, maybe there are some viewers who just prefer hearing my voice and not see my face. Who knows? And yeah, that's it for this episode anyway. I will stop rambling now, and as always, thanks for watching.